Senator Capito, and rejoined by Senator Whitehouse. Sheldon, please.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to my chart here in 1 second, but let me just make very clear that Rhode Island is a downwind state, and I really, really want EPA to enforce pollution standards in upwind states because they have a demonstrated record of not caring. They build big smokestacks so it doesn't hit their state and it comes and land in ours, and we're sick of that. And from time to time, because of upwind states' pollution, Rhode Island has had to do days where people are advised to stay in their homes. So let's not forget the upwind pollution that is coming into our downwind states. And by the way, when we're talking about the cost of meeting our NDC goals, please make absolutely sure you're also factoring in the cost of failing to meet the NDC goals, because Chairman Carper and I have coastal states that are looking at having to completely redraw our maps. The Freddie Mac is talking about a property values crash because of sea level rise that will be worse than the 2008 mortgage meltdown, and pretty much everybody in the financial sector is talking about what happens when the carbon bubble bursts, and is that a international economic collapse? So thank you for looking at both sides and not just the side that the fossil fuel industry wants us to look at. So airlines, you have no proposal or rule regarding aircraft emissions, correct?
I believe we have on the books greenhouse gas emission standards for aircraft to carry out the international agreement the Obama administration.
But there's no EPA rule specific to aircraft emissions.
There's a rule implementing our obligations under the agreement that was reached in 2016.
Okay, I'll put a check by that. It's not my view, but as to industrial sources, chemical plants, no rule specific to chemical plants for carbon emissions?
Not at this time, no.
Refineries, no specific rule for refineries for carbon emissions?
Not at this time, no. Minerals,
including cement?
Not at this time.
Metals manufacturing, steel, aluminum?
We are, Senator, proceeding sector by sector with those sectors which...
So no proposed or final rule at this time with respect to metals manufacturing?
Not at this time.
And with respect to pulp and paper, the same?
Not at this time.
Which adds up to almost 600 million metric tons of carbon pollution. Do you believe that there is industry support for reducing carbon pollution in all of these areas, aircraft and big industrial sources?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, we'll send you some stuff. And is there a reason, do the reasons that industry might support regulation of carbon emissions include that it creates a level playing field so that those who want to do the right thing don't have to fear improper competition from bottom dwellers and free riders? Is that a customary reason why industry supports regulation of these types of things?
In many cases, they're looking for certainty, and they're looking for precisely what you said. The good actors would like a level playing field to make sure that all actors
so that the bottom dwellers don't cheat.
I'm sorry?
So that the bottom dwellers don't cheat would be the rather
That's my understanding.
coarse way I would say it. So at the moment we have, just to kind of review the bidding, we've got cars and light trucks with a final rule that for the overlapping years is less strong than the Obama standard, Obama-era standard. We have coal-fired power plants with no rule or proposed rule, gas-fired power plants with no rule or no proposed rule, heavy-duty vehicles with a proposed rule focused on NOx, oil and gas facilities with a proposed rule, aircraft we'll put an asterisk by because you say you've got something and I don't see it, but and as to chemical plants, refineries, cement and other minerals, metals manufacturing, and pulp and paper, no rule proposed or final. And we're 16 months into this administration and in what is widely believed to be a world climate crisis caused by carbon emissions. Have I stated that all correctly?
I'm glad you gave us that 16-month frame because I'd like to leave
Right.
you.
Start with if I stated that correctly, and then you can expand.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thanks, Senator. I'm wanting to leave you with a sense of encouragement and hope. When just looking back, not 16 months, but just in the 11 and a half months that this administration was in office in 2021, we established a rather robust cadence in terms of putting out greenhouse gas policies. In about 9 months, we stood up an entire HFC phase-down program. We finalized the rules in the fall and stood the program up and began to harvest HFC reductions in January. We put out a comprehensive oil and gas methane proposal that for the first time covered existing sources in that sector. And we went again in 11 and a half months, soup to nuts, in establishing greenhouse gas emission standards for mobile sources through model year 26. And in that year, those standards are the most ambitious that have ever been put on the books. I bring that up, Senator, because I think we've set a pace for addressing greenhouse gas emissions using our authorities that, at least to the extent that I have anything to do with it, we will be able to maintain and even exceed in the coming 12 months.
Well, I beg to differ, but for that reason, I very much hope you exceed. And when your administrator, Regan, was sitting in that chair last, he said one of the reasons they haven't been able to get this done is that they don't have the personnel, which is interesting coming from an organization that has 14,000 employees, more than the entire United States Congress, House, and Senate alike. And I will just note for you that when there was a crush of work at the United States Attorney's Office in the District of Columbia after the Trump raiders attacked the Capitol and broke in and did all the damage and harm and injury, and they suddenly had hundreds of additional cases, what they did was they reached out throughout the entire department, and they brought people in on detail, and they stood up an operation that met the moment. And when I look at the regulatory output that you guys have to date, I think what is called for is a regulatory surge of similar or greater focus than what the Department of Justice did when it was faced with the prosecution surge in the wake of January 6th. So I commend that to your consideration and to the administrator's consideration, and I apologize to the chairman for going over my time.